so many calls this week telling us about how they couldn't wait to come and hear you talk. So you're well loved in this community. And I'm sorry we don't have all our seats filled, but a lot of people, I guess, are over at the ballpark. Freedom's opening night. But anyway, John took Steve and myself on a ride. We met him at the extension office. And I want to tell you, his car just knows where to go. He don't have to drive. He can tell stories, and the car automatically heads to the fairgrounds. I've never seen anything like it. So, and John, as most of you all know, was an educator and certainly a person to whom we could all go to when we were young. And actually, he's not much older than I am, but I do remember him in Boone County High, and he was a great teacher.
You got a question about that?
I have a question.
No, and he has a wonderful wife, and she's here also.
She is. Let's give Carol a hand. And without further ado, we feel like we know you as though you were a brother or an uncle, and we just love you to pieces. So come on up here and tell us all about the history of your new fair.
Before I get that tip first. On the screen is the cover of one of our catalogs that was put out in, I believe, 1962. But before that, I wish to give some information and credits to people that were helpful in getting this material put together. Several sources I've used. The early history of Old Boone County Fair, held in Florence, Boone County, Kentucky, was written by Mrs. Elizabeth Goodrich Nestor, and her daughter Jenny is here and loaned me the material to begin with. The other part of the program, primarily the picture part of the program, is the history of the Boone County 4-H Utopia Fair by Paula Rudisill-Baskey. And I don't believe any of the members of that family are present. So I gathered information from a number of the catalogs that we'd had, and I have a display of several of them up here that you might, if you wish, look at them. Also moving into the presentation, the fair for this year, which I hope everyone is able to make, will be the 5th through the 10th of August, and the August the 3rd is our Open to the World tractor pull from that. Okay. The Boone County Fair is known to be throughout the state as one of the best and biggest single county fair in the state. And we have some plaques to indicate that we get a few some recognition at our state meeting. Well, let's see. Might as well move on to the next one. See if that my expertise with this mechanical equipment sometimes doesn't work very good. That went too far. Here I believe this is the one we wanted to start with. This quilt pattern is found on the end of one of the horse barns, and when that picture on this slide was produced, it said it was the 79th year, so now we're in the 81st year. This is an example of the community effort which has been present through all the years of our fair to make it a bigger and better fair. So that's why the Boone County 4-H Utopia Fair is as successful as it is. Fairs have served to improve the quality of agricultural life through the improvement of livestock, encouragement of the other clubs, other things that we produce, like better fruits and vegetables, better living conditions, and such as that. I found somewhere a little story that kind of indicates the manner in which the fairs are trying to improve, I guess you'd say, communications with the general public. And I'll quote the saying: "A little girl from the city discovered a few quart milk bottles near her home." How they got there, we don't know, of course. So she told her mother in a big display of interest she had found a cow's nest. That picture just doesn't want to come up, Steve. Okay, it says Boone County Fair, Northern Kentucky Fair, organized under the Northern Kentucky Agricultural Society, and lasted for about 20 years. So to give you some history along that line, the early history of the fairs began in the early 1800s, when the first fair of the Middle West was held in Cincinnati. The next fair began in 1854 and was located between Florence and Erlanger, along where is now Hagedorn's door, somewhere in that. And this is the amphitheater or grandstands for that fair. It was organized under the title the Boone County Agricultural Association and called the Boone County Fair. The next year it became the Florence Fair. I guess Florence was growing faster than anything else, so they took the name. This fair was started in 1854 and lasted to 1881. And it was held as a 4-day fair. From 1881 until 1895, there was no fair on that grounds. Then there were several attempts to revive the idea of a Florence Fair or a fair for Boone County. And then we moved on to the Florence Fairground. This fair, as I said, was revived in 1895 and became known as Northern Kentucky Agricultural Association Fair. Now this fair had a little different, I guess you'd say, turn to it, because it was known as a stock fair. There was a capital stock of $8,000 was put up. Now remember, this was 1895. I guess the dollars are a whole lot different than they were then. I know they are. Anyhow, this was divided into 480 shares. But dividends had to be paid on this stock. The fair must have been rather successful because it said that dividends were paid ranging anywhere from a small number up to 25% for the fair stock. Now the location of this fair, I think most people are probably know where we have, but it was located in a wooded area at the corner of US 25 and 42, opposite what we might call, what we might know of also now as St. Paul's School, church school, and was rented from a Mr. Carpenter. Probably some of our folks will recognize these names as we go through. This was rented for about 20 years from Mr. Carpenter, and then in 1915, the association bought it, was able to purchase from the family that fairgrounds. The last fair was for this association was held in 1932. So between 1895 and 1932, fairs were held on that fairgrounds. Even though the fair was last held in 32, they were not able to dispose of the fairgrounds until 1944. Probably some of you folk, family had stock in that fair. I know my family, my grandfather had some stock in that fair at that time. So, this is a part of the display for that fairgrounds, and if you notice that it was in 1907, it was held for 6 days. Well, I'm sorry, excuse me there. The part of the illustration is for the Kentucky State Fair of Louisville, and it was the fair in 1907 held for 6 days, whereas the Boone County Fair at Florence was held for 4 days. Now we have what is known as the Boone County Harvest Home Grounds. Now this was I'm going to term it private grounds on Limeburg Road, where they had other events during the year than the fair. The fair itself was just a one-day annual occurrence, but they used it for other things. Now, one of the things that I wish for you to note is the shape of the barn. If you notice, it has windows or doors that fold up. Now, whether or not my story is correct, I don't know. But the first building at the Boone County Fairgrounds, as we know it, had a barn. The barn was built very similar to that barn. Fairs, of course, through the years have already indicated the Florence and fairs and so forth had an effect on many of our families in the county. Names in the old fair catalog are found today that represent family names that we know of. I believe there's Berkshires listed in some of the old catalogs, and some other names that go along. Many people now, even in Boone County, schedule their vacations in order to come to the Boone County Fair and visit with their friends and neighbors and relatives. Now we get to the beginning of the beginning of the 4-H and Utopia Fair. Okay, to keep myself going and not go over here. Anyhow, this was the 4-H, Boone County 4-H was established in 1915, and clubs around the county were had a number of different purposes. They had such things as corn clubs, tomato clubs, canning clubs, home economics clubs, sewing clubs. These fairs have always had the motto to make the best better. But to drop back a little bit further, we need to know where 4-H began. Had its beginning in 1902 when a Mr. Graham, superintendent of Clark County Schools in Ohio, schedules boys and girls meetings to learn about growing corn, planting a garden, testing soil, tying knots. Now that's one of the interesting things that I've gotten from here. Boys and girls needed to learn how to tie knots back in those days. I haven't found many people that can tie knots yet. So anyhow, identifying weeds and insects was another. He was the superintendent of a school system, as I said, in Clark County. But through his interest in boys and girls clubs and so forth, he soon became the superintendent of extension for the state of Ohio. So that was the earliest 4-H involvement. And let's move on to see what. Okay, since the old Northern Kentucky Fair or Florence Fair closed in 1932, it allowed the Boone County to form a Boone County 4-H and Utopia Fair, which was started as a free fair, a picnic more or less. But it was a community effort, and they had the 4-H clubs competing against each other for demonstrations and this kind of fair. It was started as, and still is, a non-profit fair. All the funds we can gather or go back into the operation and maintenance of the fairground. There's also the community support was important. Now this was some of the events at the 1933 fair, of course, being held at Florence. Fairgrounds still yet. The person with the broadest grin, boy with the dirtiest face. I don't think we'd have it too hard to find that one. Fat man's race, man with the biggest feet, a husband calling contest, old fiddlers contest. I wish we could get some old fiddler contests back on the fairgrounds. And I think the most interesting one is a woman's nail driving contest. How about that? So those were some of the things that began at the fair. This was the goal, not to make a profit, so we had $26.16 left in the treasury when the fair day that day closed. So they had a successful day. 35, it was decided that the Florence Fairgrounds was not the best location for a fair because the amphitheater that we showed you earlier and all that had deteriorated over the years and was declared unsafe for the continuation of the fair program. So, from that, it was moved in 1935 to the Harvest Home Grounds. And we don't know how much paid for the lease that year, but the next year paid $10 to use the Harvest Home Grounds for the day's activities. The 4-H in its establishment have developed earlier on the pledge for the 4-H membership, in which my head is pledged to clearer thinking, my heart to greater loyalty, my hands to larger service, and my health to better living for my club, my community, my country, and my world. Throughout this early development of the Boone County Fair, we were fortunate to have a county agent, who many of you remember, H.R. Faulkner, Holly Rufus Faulkner. And he was county agent from 1924 to 1946. And we had, in 1928, we found his name in the Harvest Home catalog. So he was very, very much instrumental in being in favor of the fair program. In 46, he left Boone County. I guess he got tired after 22 years putting up with some of us, or some of the kids and some of the families. But anyhow, he moved to Woodford County, Kentucky, and retired there. His son and I were in school for 11 years together. In 1930, we found that they formed what we call the Utopia Club. Now, the Utopia Club was formed in order to provide a place or a club in which youngsters older than 19 could gather and have part in the various programs that were developed. So it lasted from lost track of that. Anyhow, I'll find it. Anyhow, remembering that we said that the earlier 4-H development in Ohio was developed or started with a superintendent of schools. Well, Boone County was just as fortunate. The president of the school of the Boone County 4-H Utopia Club Council was Mr. D.H. Norris, who was superintendent of the school system. He was president of the Fair Council until ill health forced him to resign in 1945. So he had 13 years of service to the Boone County 4-H and Utopia Fair during his lifetime. Another person that many of you have know and heard of and met probably was Mr. R.B. Lentz. Now, Mr. Lentz was given the task of being the advertising manager for the fair early on. In fact, I would presume that all of the catalogs that we've been able to find were his responsibility for getting the advertisements in there. Of course, these ads showed that the community was interested in supporting the fairs and helping to pay the premiums. So, as I've said, first fair was held at the fairgrounds in Florence, and the council was formed at that time from the members that were there. Okay, like for some community sport, the individuals, clubs, and other businesses began to contribute money to the fair. Here's a good one. A farmer donated a Jersey bull calf for the Dairy Showmanship Award, and the Jersey Dairy Cattle donated $50 for premiums. I think somebody in here, where'd you go? Really, Joe? You didn't show it. Anyhow, the dairy that farm was located in Waterloo, was the Kite and Purdy Dairy Farm there in Waterloo for a number of years. Sears and Roebuck sponsored the Canning Awards. Mott's Jeweler, who still today helps us. Yes, sir.
Where was the Harvest Home location on Limeburg Road?
The location of the Harvest Home was just beyond the golf course on the left side of the road back in the woods. There was a large grove of woods there at that time. And there's still some woods there, even though there's houses. In 1936, they made enough money they could double the premiums. This is not the first catalog because this says it was 1941. We have some catalogs that go back to 40, 30. I believe there's the Harvest Home catalog here on the front table, and several of the old catalogs are there. So actually, the fair was held for 3 years at the Florence Fairgrounds, and then before it was moved to the Harvest Home ground. It stayed there for 5 years. And in 1937, the first catalog was printed. Along with the catalog, well, there were 750 catalogs printed, plus 500 posters. After the Boone County 4-H and Utopia Council had been in existence for a number of years, it was incorporated in 1948. One of the fairgrounds now at Burlington was used by a number of different events and still is. Joe and Sue Kate Berkshire there will be able to, you can find them Sunday out at the fairgrounds for the antique flea market that'll be held there. As I understood it, the first one they held in April was one of the largest they ever had. 1946, the first horse pulling contest was held. The heavy team weighed 2,650 pounds over, and the light team was under that number. Horses and mules were pulled. I was just reminded by somebody here tonight that they remembered when a neighbor out the road out here pulled a horse and a mule together. That was Jack Holt. Also, there is a folder on the table there which the Horse Pullers Association put together last year and presented at the fair and named a number of those people that took place. Today we are now and so forth, we at present and have for several years used the Bluegrass Horse Pullers Association. And Ronnie Bertram there is the person that deals with it. Thank you, Ronnie. Here's a picture of a girl showing a horse at Burlington School. Now the Burlington Fair, Burlington School was 39 and 41. The Harvest Home ground was evidently hard to get along with, the association, because as you see, there was a year in there which they weren't able to do it. So we had Mr. Norris, of course, being the superintendent of schools, was helped provide the place for having that. One of the other uses of the fairgrounds was for, and I suspect that some people in here participated, Boone County's six-man football league. Started in the fall of 1948 and was played by the four high schools of Boone County: Burlington, Florence, Hebron, and New Haven. Those names have since become Ryle and Connor and Cooper and Boone County. Okay. Now, okay, in order to buy the 30-acre fairground, there had to be money raised. $3,000 was needed. On this slide, it says 345 individuals participated in donating money to that. Other records show there were 360. So whatever, when you get over 300, you have a pretty good amount of people contributing. Anyhow, they raised the amount of money that was needed to purchase the ground, and then they rented back the pasture for $15.20 and found $10 worth of scrap iron someplace. So they had, from all of this, they had enough to buy the land, build the lake, the barn, and the refreshment stand. Remember, I said at the Harvest Home Grounds, that barn was very much similar to the one that we had built at the fairgrounds when this was taking place. I don't know, but it could be that it was moved. Part of it was moved. I do not know that. I do know that some of our earlier horse barns were moved from the horse farm on US 25, known as the Respis Farm, back in the earlier days of the fair. Now, in order for a little better explanation to what this fairgrounds is, we have to give you the rest of the story, as I say it. It was purchased with donated money. Thereby, since it was owned by 360 people, the deed to it was given or vested, as I call it, in the fiscal court. But in the incorporation papers, it's very, very exacting as to what will happen to the fair grounds should the fair council not be able to continue with the fairs. If there's not a fair held in 5-year period, then the grounds go back to the fiscal court for their disbursement. As I said, we had the Utopia Club, and was formed to provide an interest for older adults out of 4-H age, but it was also the manner in which members of the Utopia Club could become Fair Board Council participants or members. The president of the Utopia Club was the vice president of the Fair Board Executive Council. The Utopia Club, as I've indicated, was formed in 1930, dissolved in 1990 because everybody had gotten too old to participate. We couldn't find enough young blood to continue. Okay.
Go back to what you You hit it, there you go.
There we go. This is the picture of the lake that was as it was being developed. November of 1942 was this picture. Of course, you know, the lake, it hadn't had a very good rain evidently, so it hadn't gotten filled yet. Yeah. This just shows how the progress of the fair was. In 1943, the premiums were paid in the defense stamps. You got all your defense stamps together, and you got enough for a $25 savings bond. You made it into a savings bond. Food for Victory edition. 44 fair was postponed because there was an outbreak of polio, infantile paralysis. And so they moved it up till November. This slide, or this picture, shows the savings stamp, or the stamps that were given. And this is the illustration of the infantile paralysis, which affected the participation at the fair. Yeah. Okay, we had, as things went along and grew, we had to add, we added more events. 47, we had a pony and horse show. 57, a beauty pageant. 60, a farm tractor pull. 75, an open to the world tractor pull. And in 81, a sale of champions began. And in 99, a demolition derby occurred. There's a little story there that I guess is worth repeating, maybe, for these tractor pulls. It says in 1960, a farm tractor pull. Well, in the county, we had International Harvesters and John Deere's. Those were the main manufactured tractors in the area at the time. So, two individuals evidently got into a discussion as to which of the tractors was the best. So, in order to settle that argument, they took two tractors, one green and one red, down over the hill away from the crowd, I guess, and hooked them together. Well, I guess the red tractor did not have quite the guts that it needed to outpull the green tractor. So that was the end of that. Well, now we show that there was the farm tractor pull, which is held on the second Saturday of the fair, is held on the new sports track that was developed several years ago, as being the place where they could pull tractors and have demolition derby and other events. One of the nicest tracks in the country for a sports track of that nature. In 1946, John Krigler became president of the Fair Council and remained in that position until 1967. He was, of course, the Farm Bureau insurance agent and was very much interested in the agriculture and the fairs, because his name appeared in the catalog much earlier than that. So in 1982, the fair catalog was dedicated to two of the original members of the Fair Council, Mr. John Grigler and Mr. R.B. Lenz. Actually, this was the 50th anniversary of the fair at that time. So it was very appropriate that the catalog could be dedicated to those two individuals. I have to jump a little bit back into the histories, because in 1940, Mary Hood Gillespie and later Mrs. Lutz listed as the home demonstration agent. She had come to Boone County in 1936 and remained as the agent through 1949. The Lutz Floral Hall, which many of you know, on the grounds is named in her memory, where we display the 4-H projects, the flower displays, and other uses which can be found there. We have also a listing, if anyone is really interested, in the 360 names that appear on our fairgrounds deed. Of course, this lake that we showed you a few minutes ago had to be built in order to get to the fairgrounds, because there was a big hollow there. Still is, but Lake Dam serves as. A number of years after the fair was started, and back in the days when Coca-Cola was sold in 6-ounce bottles primarily, you could always go to the fair on Saturday night and have a hard time walking around the drink stand, because the grounds would be covered with Coca-Cola bottles. Times have changed. So, and a little bit more from Mrs. Lutz. She helped organize 4-H clubs, homemaker clubs, Florence Women's Club, garden clubs, and these are all part of the 4-H fair today. In 1982, and we do have a picture down there on the ground, on the floor. My wife said don't show it, but it shows she and I, plus the Bill and Melissa Burns, visiting with the family of Kissel family to get them a contract for our Boone County Fair. They have furnished the Midway since 1982. And they bring clean games, rides, and try to have something new each year. I don't know where we're going with the slide right now. We use what we got, but anyhow. Another story that goes along with the drink stand. We said that, you know, the first three things were done was a drink stand and the barn for the displays. Well, the jailer at that time was Mr. Pie Presser. Some of y'all remember him. And he helped with the cooking of the fish behind the drink stand each year that was needed. There was a big maple tree growing behind that drink stand, and the story goes that sometimes it was noted that another resident in that tree would make his appearance while Pie Presser was cooking fish. He was a big black snake. And this is the interesting part of the story. Later on, when the tree was cut down because of age and so forth, the snake moved to the ladies' restroom. So anyhow, during the fair, during this time, the need for more ground was quite evident, and we have added 18 acres to the fairground, to the original grounds, with a purchase of 12 and 6, and when the 6 was purchased, this was the location of the pulling track that I showed you earlier on. Now, in another person that we must give credit to for much involvement with the 4-H and Utopia Fairgrounds and Fair, in 1980, Joe Claxon was honored by the dedication of the fair catalog. He had served 27 years as Boone County Extension Agent for Agriculture and very instrumental in the development of our fairground. Now, it was during this time somewhere in that neighborhood of time, we'll put it that way, that the State Association of Fairs and Shows, County Fairs and Horse Shows, was formed. Boone County was very instrumental in helping with the development of this association at the state level. Several of our members have been members of part of this state board. The most recent one was Ronnie Burcham. We'll get a little more current information. And in 2012, go back 18 and 19, now we're up to 20. 2012 fair, we had 79 sponsors with 12 other donors that gave time and equipment. These original donors or sponsors contributed funds to the fair, and thereby we were able to put out the kind of fair premiums that we do. Also, the fair is very fortunate to have the support of the County Works Department, the Sheriff's Department, and the Jail Inmate Work Release Group, and other interested people. This is how the fair has progressed. Remember, we said no one gets paid. As Ronnie knows and so forth, we have the meeting of the State Association the second weekend of January, and also along with that, we get funds for the fair grounds premiums from the State Department of Agriculture, and this is based on the classes offered and in relationship to the classes that are offered in the state fair. We've got on the picture there now a display of a steer. It says thank you 4-H Council and so forth. So this is becomes known as the Sale of Champions. Started in 1982 with a lamb project because it was felt that there was too much money involved to have the large animal displayed. However, they still had it. So in 1982, that was the start of it. And it has been expanded to include a sale of 5 market steers, 2 market dairy feeder steers, 15 lambs, 2 goats, 9 hogs, 2 ducks, and 2 chickens. Well, I say 2 pens, 2 ducks to a pen, 2 chickens to a pen, and 2 rabbit pens. So now we have the, you might say, the makeup of the fair. And here is a picture of one of the families who have been able to purchase, they have purchased the boy's duck in the middle of that. That's the Cups family, Brutal and Cups. Sandra Cups is Paula Baske's sister, whom I mentioned earlier, as providing a lot of this information. It's not only a fair, it's a homecoming. Many people who once lived in Boone come back to the fair. More people you can find in there in one day. You could try to run around and visit for a long time. That was a statement made by Mr. R.D. Lentz in August of 1982. Of course, continues the 4-H motto, make the best better, with the colors of green and white. Now I'm going to get into what some people might term meddling. But anyhow, this is somewhat of a family story. In the early days of 4-H in Boone County, a judging team was formed by the then county agent, Mr. Matson. There were several boys and 1 girl on this team. They represented Boone County at the state fair, but they didn't win because, as I was told, one of the boys got sick on fair food at the state fair and couldn't participate in the judging. Some of you may kind of guess, but that girl was my mother. And she must have instilled quite an interest in me to help the young people of our county. So the fairs have served a good bit of family gatherings, life, and so forth through the years. And it is that with this is the bibliography that was given along for the use of the fair pictures and a lot of the information that came. I have also the articles of incorporation in case anyone is interested in those, and also the names of the people who participated in being the donors for the fairground. Also, we have, as I've indicated once, we have the buildings dedicated. The floor hall dedication was to Mrs. Lutz. There's one of the buildings is dedicated to the memory of H.R. Faulkner, the Holly Faulkner, the early county agent, and the other building is designated to John Krieger. They've changed the colors on them sometime. But those are the people. Those are some of the older people who have been responsible for the formation and movement of our fair through the years.
Go ahead with
What?
do the pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, go forward.
I'll go forward. Okay.
One more. There you go.
Oh, okay. Everyone recognizes Boone County Fairgrounds. This Steve and Betsy we took the trip around down the fairgrounds and so forth to get these pictures. And it says the August the 5th through the 10th, we will hold another fair. We hope. The lake, as it appears now, much larger than it was in the picture we showed earlier. Also, we have quite a number of fishermen that like that lake. And by the way, one of the events that we have brought into our fair has been the fishing frenzy, or fishing derby. The first Saturday of the fair, we invite children to come with their parents, of course, and come try to catch some fish. We usually stock it. Last year, I think we put some 900 pounds and some big fish were put in the lake at that time. I'd like to show this picture, and thank Steve for making it. This, as you might see or think, that's an awful high entrance. We had to keep raising it during the years when it was first started because trucks and so forth took out the roof. We had to keep raising it. Now we don't have any trouble. What this picture illustrates is to show that we have made progress to improve our grounds through building, in this case, use of board fences to help with the parking of the people that come. And we hope they fill it up. More of the white board fencing that some of the fair board people have designed, and we have what we term the Fairgrounds Committee, and they're always looking to improve our ground. Now this also shows the ground that we bought. I mean, I say we because actually I've been part of the fair since 1958. So anyhow, I guess we has to be. Back to the buildings, and then the original picture we showed of the quilt, which was the Florence Ladies Club, Florence Women's Club's initiative to put up the quilt patterns throughout the county. One of the nicest things that I think that we've had done in the county as far as the county in the whole. More pictures of the fairgrounds interior. More of the barns. The two barns up on the left side of the screen are the two original horse barns on the ground. They've been worked over a couple of times, but that's the original location for the horse barn. We're showing there the present ring as it is configured. In fact, the ring itself is probably just like it was practically years when it was started. About the same. Put a set of metal grandstands up on the back side, and very few people ever use them. But we do make a display area out of them to show our support and thanks to those people who have been sponsors at a given level of contribution. So their banners are always hung on that set of ground. In the background, you see the entrance. Well, down in front here on the floor is a picture of the original entrance to the fairground. They just moved that building from over here where the gates are right there. It became too crowded on this side, and so they moved it over there. but that's the original drawing of the gate. Okay. The ring and the announcer stand in the middle. Again, the entrance stand on the far corner over there. More ring. When I was at the 1942 fair, there was a woven wire fence where that wall is. It's been rebuilt 2 or 3 times too. This is our covered grandstand. For a long time we had to sit out in the sun, but we got it worked to where it is covered. Well, there shows the entrance again, where the building which has been moved from the other side. The announcer stand. Now, this particular building is also of interest to me. It is the Methodist food stand. It is the only food stand from the community standpoint that is left on the grounds. In a way, I guess I might as well tell the rest of the story. It was dedicated to my mother because of her interest in the Methodist Church, as well as helping to start that food booth at the fairgrounds. My wife, before she ever became a Walton, had to come help my mother in that booth one day. Okay, welcome to the Boone County Fair. That is our kitchen, our food booth, and there, before it became white and had that nice color to it, Joe Claxton designed a multicolor front to it, and we had that for several years. The picnic tables in the shelter, the paintings on the wall were some of